Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Stephanie. So if you find yourself working in a role where you have to automate different types of documents, and I'm talking about PDFs, video files, or even audio files, then you'd want to watch this tutorial to the end because I'm going to show you step by step exactly how you can automate this entire translation process. I'm going to show you exactly how you can generate all the APIs you need and how you could connect all these APIs along with the various nodes available in n8n. Now let's get started. First things first, I'm going to walk you through exactly how this workflow works, and then after which I'm going to show you exactly how to build this step by step. As I mentioned earlier on, for the tools, I'm going to be using n8n. I'm also going to be leveraging some APIs from Google because I'll be using Google Drive, I'll be using Gemini, and I would also be using the Google Cloud Translation API. So let me walk you through how this workflow works. So I do have a folder I created in Google Drive, and in Google Drive, I do have a sample PDF file with just 2 lines of text, and mind you, it could be several pages of documents. Just for the purposes of this tutorial, I decided to just keep it very simple. So I created a folder in Google Drive, and I called it transcribe files, and in transcribe files I do have my sample PDF. If you want to translate an audio file, then instead of a PDF you could have an audio file in here. So I do have a Google Drive trigger, and I've configured it in such a way that when there are any changes with regards to that folder, then it should trigger the entire workflow. What this means is that if I should push this workflow to production, all I need to do is I just have to always upload files that need to be translated into that Google Drive folder, and it will just automatically do it for me. I don't need to even come into this workflow at all. So once we have that set up in Google Drive, the next step for us is to now download the file, because in order for us to work on the file, we need to have it downloaded. So I'm also using another Google Drive node to do that, and like I mentioned, I'm going to walk you through the entire process later on. And then I do have a simple switch statement here, just because I'm limiting the scope of this tutorial to audio files and PDF files. I just have 2 routing rules, and the first one has to do with if the extension is an MP4, and the second one is if the extension is a PDF. So I just have these 2 routing rules in here. And then if the file is a PDF, all I want to do is I just want to extract it into a text file, because the Google Cloud Translation API would work on a text, right? It will work on a text file. So I want to extract whatever is in the PDF into a text file, and that's what I'm using. And then if it happens to be an audio file or a video file, I want to convert the speech to text, and I'm leveraging APIs from 11 Labs. I'll show you how you can get your API from 11 Labs as well. And then the output is from these 2 different nodes. I'm just going to store them in a field called text, because I'm expecting to get a text as an output. Once I have my text ready to be translated, I'm just going to call the Google Cloud Translation API, and I'm using version 2. And then once I have my document translated, because I would want to give my document a title, I'm leveraging Gemini here to generate a title based on what's in the document. And so it gives me I gave it instructions to just generate a title with about 5 words. So you could also be creative and decide on how many words you want to have in your title. And then I eventually write this into a Google Doc file. You're good to go. Okay, so now that I have walked you through the entire process and how this works, let me show you step by step how to build it, especially if you're a beginner and you haven't really touched n8n. And I'm going to try my best that in this tutorial you wouldn't have to write any line of code, and if you even have to write any line of code, it's going to be very minimal. Okay, so first things first, you need to have n8n. So I am using the self-hosted version of n8n, but if you are not technical and you don't want to go through the hoops of having to always stay on top of updates and all that, then you could use the cloud version. So the n8n cloud version is about, I think, $20 a month, 20 euros a month or so. So you can use the cloud version. The self-hosted version used to have templates and everything, community nodes that you could leverage, but now the cloud version also has that. Okay, so if you want to go with a cloud version, then I'll encourage you to do that as well. I'm going to click on Google Drive and I'm just going to save on changes involving a specific folder. And like I mentioned, I already have like my authentication and my credentials set up already. And in terms of the folders, like I mentioned, I already do have a folder I created and I call the folder transcribe files. So you could also have something similar. And in terms of watch outs for, I'll just say watch outs for, let's say, folder updated. Okay, all I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna fetch a test event just so we see what happens. Okay, so as you can see, it's giving me the fact that we have just one file and it's giving me details of the file in the folder. So that's really good. Once we have our file ready, all we want to do is download it. So I'm going to use again the Google Drive node as well to do the download. So I'm going to click on this and then I'm going to look for the download file. And then in here, I'm just going to say by URL, okay? Because the output we got from the previous node includes a URL. So I'm just going to put in the web view link in here. And then I'm just going to click on execute step. Okay, so as you can see, our file is in here. It's giving us details of the file. It's telling us that the file is a PDF file and it's giving us the size and everything. Like the size and everything doesn't really matter to us at this point. Okay, so this is working fine. I'm just going to go back to the canvas. So now that we've downloaded the file, the next thing for us is, like I mentioned, because I have like 2 use cases in here, because I want to not just translate PDF documents, but also audio files or video files. I want to include like a switch statement. If you know that in your role, all you have to do is translate PDF files, then just make sure that you don't even need like to have like a switch statement or an if else statement. You just need to like go straight into the Google Cloud Translate APIs. But because I am covering both PDF and also video files and audio files in here, I just want to have a switch statement. And in the switch statement, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to have like 2 routing rules. I'm going to switch to schema, for instance, and I'm going to say that if the file extension contains an MP4, then route it to this particular flow in the workflow, or if it contains something else, then route it to something else. So you can have as many routing rules as possible. And then I'm just going to click on execute the steps. So like you can see, the first output item is the PDF is showing, but then we don't have an output for the MP4 because we don't have that scenario in our Google Drive. Okay, so this is working fine. This is working really well at this point. So now that we have this set up, we know that our first one is going for like the first output node here is for PDF and the second output node here is for audio files. Okay, so because we know we are going to have like a PDF here, what we want to do is we just want to like extract the PDF into a text file. So we're going to use the extract from file node in here, and all we are going to say extract from PDF, and we are going to input it into a binary field. Okay, I'm just going to execute this and let's see what we get. Okay, all right, so this is what we have the text in here for us, which is really good. Okay, we have the text in here for us, so it means that this has been now extracted into a text. So this is now a text and no longer a PDF, so that's fine. This is in a very good space to now be worked on. This second output here is only for MP4 files. We now have to transform the audio file into text. In order to do so, we'll be using the speech to text functionality in 11 Labs. You need to have API keys as well for 11 Labs. So when you come into 11 Labs, all you have to do is you click on your profile, and then you click on API keys, and you'll be able to generate an API key. Okay, and then you click on create API key, and you'll be able to generate API key. I already have like an API key created already for 11 Labs, so I'm gonna like skip creating a new API key. With 11 Labs, you can always look at the documentation. Again, if you come in here, you'll be able to see like the documentation, and you'd see the things you need for a speech to text model. So this is where we are going for. We want to create a transcript, so you're able to transcribe an audio or video file, and all you can do is you can basically just copy this curl code and then come in here and click on import curl, and then all you have to do is just import the curl. And like I mentioned, you need to input your credentials. Okay, you need to put in like your API key. Your API key is what helps you your API key is what helps you sort of communicate to 11 Labs from the back end. So it's very important that you have like an API key. So I'm just gonna add in the API key as a header parameter because it's a required field. And then in terms of like the model ID, if you come into the API documentation, model IP is either one of these two. So I'm just going to take the first one, and that will be my model ID. A binary file from the last step we had, I believe we called it data. So I'm just going to put data in here, and the name can be file. It could be anything else. So we have all these ready. So this essentially eventually outputs a text if we have like an audio file. Okay, so the next step for us is to feed this into a single field. So I'm just going to click on this, and then I'm going to add a set node. So I'm just going to call this field, let's say text. So I'm just going to drag the text in here like this. If I should execute this right now, you'd see that we would have like a new field created as text, which is fine. So now that we have everything ready, the next part is really where we are going to leverage the Google Cloud translation APIs. Okay, and like I mentioned, we are going to be using like we need API keys for that. So all you have to do is you need an HTTP request node, and then you have to, like, we're using a post. Go into the Google Cloud translation API documentation, you'd see that you need like to have like a URL, which in this case we are using this URL. So this is a post, and then we are using this URL here, and in that you need to also have your API key. Okay, so make sure that you have your API key, which is this one. Make sure you have your API key set up as well to be able to use that. And then you need some very important fields as well. So for our headers, you need to set the type of content type. Okay, so I'm going to come into headers, and then I'm going to set the content type. The content type is usually applications JSON. All this is in the Google Cloud Translation API documentation. And the good thing is I didn't really have to pay for this. So there are the APIs you could use like DeepL, and there could be restrictions. Maybe you're just on a free tier. But with this, I didn't really have to pay anything. So that was super cool. Okay, that was super cool. All right, so in terms of the body parameters, we need to send some body parameters as part of our call to the API. So one parameter we need to set is this, and this is essentially the text we are getting from the previous step. I'm going to add another parameter, and then the next parameter is really what is the source language, which in this case is English. And then the next parameter is what is the target language, in this case French. And the next parameter is what format is this in, and in this case it's a text. So that's all we need, and I'm just going to click on execute, and you'd see that our our text has been translated to French for us. I'm not a big French speaker, but this definitely is French. Okay, so going back, so now that we have everything translated, this is really good. So after we have our translation ready, the next step is connect an AI, and under the prompt message, I'm just gonna change it and put in the translated text in here. And then under the system message, I'm just gonna say, yeah, helpful assistance that generates a title based on the text here. Then I'm just going to drag the text in here, and then I'll give it an instruction and say keep the title to 5 words. Okay, in terms of the chat model, I'm going to be using Gemini, so I'm going to say Gemini. And then yeah, you know, you can also add like memory, so that when it's stored in memory, you are able to reference it. So if you are using Gemini, make sure that the model you're using is like 2.5. I was on 1.5 at first, and so it failed. So make sure you're on the 2.5 version. So I'm just going to use this one. I think the one that was released in April, and this time around, if I should run it, you'd see that it should work fine now for us, and we should have an output title, and you can see this is 4 words long. So this is good. So now that we have our title ready and everything, the next step for us is to write this into a Google Doc file. Okay, so I'm gonna click on this, and then I'm gonna click on Google Docs, and I'm just gonna create a documentation. And in terms of the folder, like I mentioned, you can create a separate entire new folder for all your translated documents. And then in terms of title, you're just gonna drag this output here as a title. And then now that we have our documents created, the next step for us is to just update the document. Okay, so I'm going to update the document, and I'm just going to click on update documents, and in here would have our doc ID ready. So I'll just drag the doc ID in here. And in terms of what am I updating the documents with, I'm updating the documents with our outputs from the HTTP request node. And yeah, if I should run this entire workflow again, just so you know, I don't have any doc file here. The file I have in here is an English version of the file. If I should run this entire workflow, you'd see that I would have a document created in my Google Drive, just as you see here. If I should refresh this, you see that I have a document created in my Google Drive with a title as well as the translation in here. So that's it guys. That is it for today's tutorial. If you have any questions, if you have any challenges, just drop them in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to help you. I like to know if there are other models, or if there are other translation models out there that you'd like to try, or if there's another translation model you've tried in the past. Just let me know in the comment section below. But that is it for today's tutorial. I've done other tutorials on AI agents, on AI animations. I'm gonna leave them somewhere in the caption or somewhere in the comment section, so that you can go check those ones out as well if you're interested in updating or upgrading your knowledge in the field of AI. But for now, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.